All right, ladies and gentlemen, anybody that is a football fanatic, welcome. We are now officially live here at JP Football Fanatics. I hope everybody's having a great week. I hope everybody enjoyed their football weekend as well. I know there was not a whole lot of real big explosive games that went on this weekend. Maybe a couple ones to really talk about. Maybe really to talk about some things that really did happen, but there was a couple really big headlines that I feel like I'm going to talk the most about tonight. So tonight might be a little bit slimmer than it usually is. If you don't like that it's slim like that, I apologize in advance. But excuse me. But I feel like right now, with the season on the line, week 14 after week 14, we only got about 3 weeks left of the regular season football. Definitely some things to really talk about as far as playoffs. So I think I'm going to be talking more about playoffs tonight. Maybe I'll talk about a little bit about some games that happened here and there. I'll go into a little bit of depth in some of them. But I think for this week, for tonight, we're going to definitely talk more, go more into the depth as far as the playoff picture and how it goes. So that's probably where we're going to look at tonight. But there are going to be a few games tonight that I really do want to talk about and I want to express most of my opinion on. So that way you guys kind of understand and see which teams do I feel like is going to really excel in the playoffs and might be like a dark horse and maybe to look out for here and there. Or there might be some teams that I'm worried about that's already in the playoff picture, but seem a little bit more, seem a little off, or teams that don't typically, play this poorly. And if they're going to the playoffs, some things to really worry about if your team is looking to do some real damage in the playoffs. So that's mostly what it's going to be tonight with week 14. But thank you everybody to tuning in. It always means a lot every time you guys tune into our podcast every Tuesday and Wednesday nights. It really does mean a lot. So thank you so much for doing that. It really means a lot. So if you have not done so already, please be sure to drop a like on this video. Leave a comment down below too as well. And then also please hit that subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell. I'm telling you guys, every time that I sound like a broken record when I say it, but I'm telling you, the more that I keep getting subscribers, the more you people keep telling me about, you keep telling other people about the YouTube channel and how good of a job I do, and so on and so forth. The more views I'm going to get, the more subscribers I'm going to get, and the longer I'll be able to keep this channel up and running. So please be able to do that. Please do all those things. Drop a like, leave a comment down below if you'd like to see any content that you haven't seen yet this season, and just subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so that way you guys can be in tune of every single week of when I go live and when other new content comes out as well. So that way you'll be the first ones to know and you'll be able to tune into them at the time. So do all those things and all will be good. All right. Cool. All right, thank you. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. We're going to jump right into the podcast now. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to start off with the playoff picture first and how that's looking so far. So I'll share my screen real quick. All right, so a little bit of changes that went on in the AFC this week. So I'm going to talk about that. And it typically happened in last night's game, which we'll get to talk about and how that really, might affect the rest of the season. But here, we'll take a look at the AFC side of things right now. Buffalo is the number 1 seed still. As of right now, they'll receive the number 1 bye. Number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs. They stay right there after their win against the Broncos. And the Bills are coming off a tough win against the Jets. We'll talk about that game a little bit too. That'll be one of the games I want to talk sometime about. Number 3 is the Ravens. They're still in the lead of the AFC North, so they're still right there. They're at number 3. Number 4 is the Tennessee Titans. They are coming off some losses here as of late. They just are coming off of a loss against Jacksonville. Not a very pretty loss in that case. and we'll talk about the Titans and how much to really worry about them. But they're just clinging on right now to that division title. I still think they'll win the division, but they'll still make the playoffs, I believe. But I think the way that it's really looking right now, though, they're kind of going down this like downward spiral here at this late slate of the season. So, some things that definitely want to talk about in that game and for that particular team. Number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, and if the Ravens keep winning, their ways, or if they at least lose another game or so in there, Cincinnati could definitely reclaim their throne as the division leader. But I think right now with the Ravens and the Bengals, the way they're looking at it right now is neck and neck. So these two will have to play each other at least one more time. Well, they will be playing one more time, and we'll see how that head-to-head matchup goes. So interesting right there. Number 6. Hold on one second, guys. Number 6 is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are coming off of a loss here, but they dropped to number 6 a little bit. Well, they still stay at number 6 right there. But then you get a new team that joined us this week, and a couple of times it changed a little bit. It was previously the Jets. Then it was the Chargers that came in after the Jets lost and the Chargers won on Sunday Night Football. The Chargers snuck into that 7th spot. But now the New England Patriots, after they beat the Cardinals, they snuck in, and now they're right there. They're clinging on to that last wild card spot. And then the last few teams that are really looking into trying to get to that 7th spot is the Chargers, the Jets, and then the other 2 teams, the Jags and the Raiders. I don't know. I don't think the Raiders are going to do it. I think the Raiders are done. But the Jags might if they play consistent, but they're not a team that I would probably think they are going to get into a I don't think they're going to be a team that really gets into the playoffs, though, because of just how inconsistent they've been this year. So right now it's the Chargers and the Jets. I think they're going to be fighting for that last wild card spot right there. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes in the AFC. But I'm liking the way it's looking right now. The Bills are up by a couple of games over the Dolphins, so they'll play the Dolphins on Saturday. We'll see how that game kind of goes for them. And then that's a game that, if the Bills win that one, they could clinch that division if they want to. They could clinch that division. And, won't clinch the number 1 spot here, but they can probably try to clinch that division title there if they do win on Saturday. But we'll see what happens there because there's still a few weeks left in the season. But yeah, I want to definitely talk about the Titans still a little bit tonight. So that's the AFC right now. Right now, then, we're going to go over to the NFC side. Right now, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. They already clinched the playoff spot there. It looks like, I believe they're probably going to be the number 1 seed right now, just given the rest of their schedule of what they're given right now. Not a lot of teams left that they really do have to play that's going to challenge them besides the Cowboys. But yeah, they're looking like they're probably going to be the top seed in the NFC. So team definitely to look out for. The Vikings are at number 2, which they'll probably stay at number 2 unless they lose one more game. The 49ers are right at number 3 there. They're hanging around there. They're doing a pretty good job with Brock Purdy, the 3rd-string quarterback for this team, which is good to see for them. The Bucs are somehow managing to hold on to the division lead, and they're somehow holding on to the number 4 spot, which isn't a guarantee that they'll get. I know the teams that are creeping up on them, like the Panthers got to win. They're a team that probably could sneak away the division title and probably could make the playoffs, or the Falcons probably could too. So a couple of teams that are sneaking up in the NFC South there. So that one's up for grabs. Number 5, the Cowboys. Then number 6 is the Commanders. And then number 7 is the Giants. So, and then the teams that are kind of clinging in there, which I believe is going to be probably one of these 5 teams right here. It'll either be the Seahawks, the Lions, the Packers, which those will be the 3 that will probably seek into that last 7th spot right there. I think is very well possible. And then the Panthers and the Falcons probably, that's going to lead more towards like the last spot here in the division. That's the division winner right here. So that's why I say that. But yeah, I think the Lions are. Whew, I'm going to talk about the Lions though. Really think they're looking really good right now. Not going to lie, they're 6-7. I get that, but they're playing solid. I really like what the way the Detroit Lions playing, and I think they can really, make a run for their money here, and probably try to, get into the playoffs. All right, so let's go over here, and we will get started with talking about the recap, Week 14 recap for this week. All right, so this is how I ended up doing this week. Week 14, I ended up being 7-6, so not too shabby, but definitely not something great. But I definitely broke over 100 wins, though. I'm now 112, 91, and 2 for the overall season. 7-6 this week, 112, 91, and 2 for the overall season. Now we'll get into my top 10 teams after Week 14. Now, I kind of talked about it last week. Definitely a lot of teams that I really feel like could have made the number 10 spot, but I'm giving it to the Commanders. I think the Commanders are still the hottest team right now in the NFC, and maybe even in the league right now. They started out the season, I believe they were like 2-4 or something like that, 1-4, whatever, and now all of a sudden they're really getting back on track. They're looking at a potential playoff spot, which I think they're going to get for sure. Taylor Heineke is carrying this team to be the best version of itself as possible. He's doing really well. Ron Rivera is doing a really good job over there too with building the best team he can, coaching his team up, and he's preparing them for games. So, they're going out there, they're beating good teams, they're playing against good teams, and you got to give them credit for that. So they deserve the number 10 spot there. Number 9 is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins lost on Sunday Night Football. There's a lot of concerns about the Dolphins. I do have offensively. I think it was a little bit more of a fluke as far as offensively of how they performed in Tua. But there is some things I do have questions about as far as the team itself. Obviously, I think Tua plays well when he has Tyreek and when he has Jalen Waddle out there, but there's also some concerns as far as defensively goes. They're not quite as good defensively as they used to be, so that's where I kind of want to talk a little bit about them. And the Chargers, when they played the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, that's kind of where there were some concerns there, and it was a good defensive matchup for the Chargers to play against with the Dolphins, which is something I kind of thought would have taken place, but at the same time, though, I think the Dolphins' defense and the offense needs to take a look at a couple of things before they really can say that they're ready to go deep. Then you got the number 8 spot of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys barely squeezed by against a very, very, very bad Houston Texans team, but they're still in the top 10. They're still just a very, good team, and they're still in the top 10 for mostly because of defense. Their defense is one of the best in the league, so that's why you got to keep them. You got to keep them in the top at 10 somewhere. So they're at number 8. Number 7 is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are now down to their third string quarterback, which his name was Anthony Brown. I do remember that. Tyler Huntley went down, had a concussion, and Lamar Jackson was out with a knee injury. So it went down to the third string quarterback, and Anthony Brown. And offensively, there are some things about this Ravens offense I have concerns about, which is why they're not my favorite to really go deep in the playoffs. They're not my favorite to win the AFC North because of those issues. Give them credit. They're still winning games and this and that and everything. So, I give them definitely credit there. And defensively, I think they've been playing much better defensively as of late. But there's still a team that they have a lot of questions. There's still a team that, has a lot of holes in it that not enough people want to talk about or bring up. So that's why I can't bring them any higher right now than than number 7. Number 6 is the Minnesota Vikings. They came off of a loss against the Lions, which is, something that was projected. I kind of figured that would happen to lose to the Lions because they are playing good football. The Vikings are starting to show a little bit of a decline here. Not so much offensively. I think they're showing, similar patterns of what they've been showing all year offensively, but defensively, I think they're getting worse. They can't really stop the run very well. They can't stop the pass whatsoever. And they don't really play coverage very well. There's a lot of things that the defense does not play well in, and that's why I say they're kind of regressing here. So it's going to be a little bit of a concern for the Vikings here as we approach the postseason. But we'll see what happens there. Number 5 is the San Francisco 49ers. You can't go wrong with what they're doing right now, okay? I mean, no Jimmy G, no Trey Lance. You're going down to your third string quarterback, Brock Purdy, the rookie. And I believe he's going to eventually be the starter for the 49ers moving forward. I feel like, yes, he has some motives like Jimmy G. I feel like he does have some of that. But I like the way he plays. I think he's a lot more aggressive than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he makes better throws. I think he takes more risks down the field, which I like. And he likes to challenge himself more. So I think Brock Purdy's going to do fine. I think he's going to end up being the 49ers starting quarterback moving forward. And if this organization does not let that happen, there's definitely something wrong with them. They need to let Brock Purdy go out there and show himself. So the 49ers, they're the most complete team right now, though. They're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. 100%. They could even make the Super Bowl too. I think in the NFC side they could even give the Eagles a run for their money. I think they're the Eagles' biggest threat. Number 4 is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are still up there, of course. They're still one of the best teams in the AFC and the NFL too. Patrick Mahomes, he's getting it done. They survived a scare against a very bad Broncos offense, which is something they shouldn't have allowed to happen, like that big of a comeback. But it's going to be more of a I told you so, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it. But Chiefs are at number 4 for that reason. They're still very good, but there's still a lot of questions I still have about them, and that's going to rely more defensively, though. Number 3 is the Cincinnati Bengals. They're just hot, man. They're a very hot team. Joe Burrow is playing his best football right now of his career, in my opinion. I think this is the best football he's been playing so far in his career. The team's playing well behind him. The defense is playing well. Coaching staff, they're making good coaching calls. They're making good play calls. Yeah, I like the Bengals. I really would not be surprised if they made it back to the Super Bowl. Or I would not be surprised if they made it to the number 2 spot here this year. And then number 2, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are definitely coming back on. They had a tough showing against the Jets. I think that really showed that I think that really showed a lot of people that the Jets are definitely a much more of a bigger threat to the AFC East and even the rest of the NFL than the Bills. Only scoring 20 points on them, which is really crazy to say because of how good this offense is for the Bills. But, they played a tough Jets team. They played a really good Jets defense offensively for the Jets. I thought they played what they could. I think Mike White had a decent game there too. But, at the end of the day, the better team won, and that was the Bills. Then number 1, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely just train wrecked the Giants. Like I said, given their schedule and given what they have left besides the Cowboys, there's not a lot of scare left here. That I don't see the Eagles really losing any more games. Maybe to the Cowboys, but I don't think they're going to lose any more games. I really don't think so. So that's where we're at with that. All right, so let's talk about this game right here. I want to talk about this game right here is the Raiders and the Rams game. I'm going to talk about this game a little bit. I'll talk about the Raiders. First, I want to talk about, give Baker Mayfield credit, okay? He came into Hollywood, 48 hours, ago, before the game even started, he's the starting quarterback right now for the Rams. Okay, great. That's awesome. I mean, I think that's a win there for the Rams. I think they did a good job with that. They needed a quarterback badly. Wolford was definitely not the answer, and neither was Perkins. So this was a good choice. I think this was a good choice to get. So he came in. He came in to LA, and then 48 hours later, he's playing in his very first game. Um, and the Rams got a very slow start, which is something that was expected. It looked like the Raiders were playing well. They were playing hard. I think offensively they were doing good, running the ball with Josh Jacobs. But I will say this, though. This was more about the Raiders losing this game, I feel like, than it was the Rams winning this game. Now, that's not going to take away anything. I think that, I think Baker Mayfield, he did an excellent job. I think that he did put on a probably the best 2-minute drill of his entire career at the end of that game. There's no question about it. I think he did an awesome job with that, and you've got to give the man credit where credit is due. So I've definitely given him credit there. But you're playing the Raiders, okay? You know the Raiders. You know how much unluck they've had in their entire franchise, especially in this season here alone. Another game that they were leading by like 2 scores, and they let up the score. And that's exactly what the Raiders did. The Raiders were in control the entire game. I think offensively they were in control. The Rams defense was having a hard time. They were even having a hard time stopping the run, which was, that's something that you don't really see the Rams do typically. I mean, they do a good job usually with stopping the run, but, with a lot of injuries that's going on in there right now, and no Aaron Donald too, you don't have a whole lot of pressure going on there. So, the Raiders were doing all right with running the ball for a little bit. So, really, where they ended up losing this game really was mostly because of Derek Carr. I think this was more of like a Derek Carr situation of why they lost this game. I think with him, he wasn't really playing anywhere. He wasn't getting a lot of touch with his balls. He had a couple good plays to Devontae, and he had some good plays right there, and he was able to get the squeeze some balls in the tight direction here and there. But there were some parts where he overthrew some balls there. I felt like he overthrew the ball quite a few times, missed some open receivers, and taking some hits where he really didn't need to, and stuff like that. And and even during the times of when he was given time, he just still wasn't making the right decision for the team. And ultimately is what really made the decision for the Raiders to lose. Now, defensively for the Raiders and Max Crosby, besides Max Crosby, who, got to Baker Mayfield quite a few times in this game. I think Baker got sacked quite a few times. I think he got sacked at least twice. Not twice, like 2-3 times maybe. So, I thought they were doing a pretty good job there. I think they were getting some pressure on him. I think they were doing good with that. I think the defensive line was playing probably one of their better games this year. They were getting pressure on the quarterback and everything, and that was probably just let alone that the offensive line for the Rams not very good. But a lot of it also was just more of like, play calling. And not just play calling, but just a lot of... Sorry, hold on. And it wasn't really just because of that. It was also just a lot of because of like mental errors too. I mean, with coverage, they weren't really playing the exact coverage of where they needed to, and they weren't really, covering receivers, and they just were playing very, very slow. I think that was basically the reasons of why they lost this game was because of that. They didn't really cover well. I don't think they called a good defensive game. And a lot of it was also just because of Derek Carr. I don't think Derek Carr really played a good game in this game. Maybe a couple of passes here and there. He did go in, and maybe there were some things like in terms of running the ball, they were doing well and with Josh Jacobs when they really needed to. But that was really basically it. Like, they didn't really do anything else creative. They didn't really take advantage of what they could have taken advantage of. Like, no Aaron Donald. Like, they could have taken advantage a lot more than what they showed. But a lot of the mental mistakes that happened, and that was like mostly from the Raiders' perspective, was just a lot of mental errors, and a lot of play calling, and a lot of weird decisions to do on defensively, and that's what ultimately they lost this game. And the Rams had to adjust a little bit. I think it was more of like Baker had to get used to a little bit of what the offense was giving them, which was expected. I think that was expecting to happen. Because given the guy that only showed up like 48 hours ago, so he's only learning all this stuff as we speak right now, right here on the field. So he doesn't even know like the names of his receivers yet. He doesn't even know how the playbook works or anything. But I think he kind of improvised everything. He was able to go in there. He played with what he knew he could do. He played with a spark. He got a spark going for the Rams that they hadn't had yet this year, and that's what drove them to this game. Yeah, this is what drove them to this win, and that's something that's like big for Baker Mayfield. That's big in his career. Now, is this more of like a get right game for the Rams? Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's a get right game. It's a nice field to win the game, but the Rams aren't really going anywhere. The Rams are still not going to make the playoffs. But it was more of like more of a way to really get the team kind of going for next year and just kind of get them something to be more proud of for this year. Because there hadn't been a lot of really good moments for the Rams this year. They've been kind of, very bad this year, like really banged up a lot in a lot of different areas, from quarterback to wide receivers to running backs to offensive line to defensive line to secondary. They've had a lot of issues this year. So this was more of like a feel good game for the Rams, and I think they deserve to get some praise right there for the way they won this game. But they're still not going to make the playoffs, and I don't know if this is like a game where like is Baker Mayfield going to be the starting quarterback moving forward for the Rams? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. But is it a game where like Baker Mayfield showed that he can still play in this league? Yeah, absolutely. I think he still absolutely is very capable of playing in this league. I think a lot of the problems there, mostly with a lot of the times of like when Mayfield did not perform well, was just a lot of because of his coaching staff and a lot of offensive plays and a lot of offensive playbooks that didn't really go the way that with what he was good at. And ultimately, this is why he's the overall first round pick. And he's not even anywhere. He's already on his third team, and it didn't work out in Carolina. It didn't work out in Cleveland for him. So, there's days. I think there is going to be a time when he does get back. I think he can still probably play in this league. I think there's definitely a lot of possibilities where we could still see some success. I think he provides a big spark to any football team. I think he's very energetic. I think there's a lot of things you can say about Baker that's really good. But at the same time, too, I don't know if his full-time starting days in this league is going to be continuing much longer. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to really say that that's going to be the case for him moving forward after this win. But you never know. You never know. Now, as far as the Raiders go, the Raiders, as far as like the Raiders and how they go and how their season's looking, I think this was a game where the Raiders had to win this game. 100%. They had to go on there. They had to win this game. And they did not do it. I think this was a game that, was going to put them, keep their season alive. They were still going to keep them in playoff contention and whatnot. And they're, while they're still technically still in it, with the given schedule that they have left, it's going to be very difficult for them to go in there and really be able to, really be successful in that aspect. So I think the Raiders are done here. I think this is the game that they really needed to win and they didn't get it. So that's what we're looking at that point. And that's, I think moving forward for the rest of the year, it's just something that we have to start looking in for, if you're a Raiders fan, looking in for next year and see what they can do next year. They definitely have the talent. I think the talent is there. I think the coaching staff is still very good. I still believe in Josh McDaniels. I think he can turn this team around at some point and really get things going here. But they got to really get going here. They got to get the things figured out, what they're going to do for next year, how they're going to change up what they did this year, and move forward. That's basically what they're going to do. So let's move in with that. All right, wanted to talk about the Lions. Let's talk about the Lions. Yeah, they went in there. They won at home. They've been excellent at home this year, and they went in and they beat the Minnesota Vikings, their NFC North foe, by a score of 34-23. Uh, a very impressive offensive performance for the Lions, no question about it. I think their offense is the scary and the most focal point of their entire team. I think they run the ball very well. I think they protect the quarterback very well. And they pass the ball very well. There's a lot of things they do very well, and they got a lot of playmakers around Jared Goff. Easily playing probably his best football in his career. And if you ever would have thought that the Detroit Lions would have been the team that he would have been the most successful in, I mean, I probably would have told you in your dreams, but no, he's been playing really good this year. I really would like to see Jared Goff probably potentially win like comeback player of the year if he was up for candidate for that. No question would I probably pick him as one of the comeback players of the year. I think he's been having a stellar year. Making really, really big time throws, making some passes, and not being so conservative or so erratic under pressure, which is something that Jared Goff has not done yet in his entire career. Even when he was with the Rams too, like when he played for the Rams, he played a lot of football where he was under a lot of pressure and a lot of duress, and he just did not look like he was in sync all the time with his receivers. And that one season when the Rams went into the Super Bowl, he looked like a good quarterback then. He looked very good that season, and then you look into that Super Bowl that he played in against the Patriots. That's what really we saw a lot of Jared Goff and what he really potentially ended up turning out to be. And then the last couple of years with him being in LA, it didn't really look like his best. Then he went to Detroit. We didn't know how that was going to really turn out for him. And a lot of people were doubting on him last year with his year and the recently, the record that he had and everything like that. But I didn't think he played all that bad last year with the Lions. I think what he got out of Los Angeles, I feel like, is where Jared Goff had started to play better. So I think he's playing better with the Detroit Lions than he did with the Rams, which is, again, that's crazy to really think about. From going from Sean McVay, an offensive genius, supposed offensive genius, to Dan Campbell, who never coached an NFL team before until last year. But he has playmakers all around him. I think they play really well, and I think that finally the thing that they finally did for him, that the Rams couldn't really figure out what offensive playbook would work best for him, and it's because he plays. If you put him in play action passes, that's where you get to see a lot of Jared Goff be successful. He's not going to always be totally comfortable in the pocket, and he does better when he throws the ball on the run, and that's what he's done this year. I think they adjusted to that really well for him, and he's had playmakers that he could throw the ball to, like Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely one of them. Josh Reynolds has had some big moments this year. DJ Chark is also there too, and he's got a good offensive line. I think this is a very underrated, very good offensive line here in Detroit. So, this Lions team is still, and I think defensively for Detroit too as well, they're still not great. I think they still let up some points here and there, but I think they're improving defensively, and especially I think they're improving more on the run, and which I think they did a good job with containing Dalvin Cook. I don't think they really didn't allow him to really get big plays in, which is something. Which is something that we typically don't see very often with Dalvin Cook, because Dalvin Cook. Sorry, I had something stuck in my throat. But with Dalvin Cook, has had a lot of success with the Lions, against the Lions. You know, had a tough time with this Lions defense. I thought he had a tough time with running the ball. I thought the Lions defense did a good job with that. And Kirk Cousins had a really good game too, but what really let the Vikings down and why they didn't win this game was because of defense. They just could not stop the Lions' offense. That's why they lost this game. So that's why I kind of say right now, as we talk about like playoff teams, what's this looking like for the Lions? What's this looking like for the Vikings? The Lions probably will sneak in. I think they can sneak in to the 7th spot in the playoffs. I think they could definitely sneak themselves in. I'm not sure how far they can go, but I think they can sneak into the playoffs. Obviously, the Vikings are going to be there. But as far as the Vikings and how far they're going to advance, it does not look like the way they've been playing lately does not look like they'll advance very far. And a lot of that is going to be because of defense. I think defensively they need to fix a lot of things up. Very slow. They can't get the secondary going. When they do try to cover, they don't play coverage very well. And they let up like the receivers get wide open. And then they also don't do well against the run either. So I think they're going to struggle a little bit when they get to the playoffs, and they might lose in the playoffs too, which is going to really hurt their chances of going to the Super Bowl. So a lot of adjustments need to be made there for the Lions, for the Vikings for sure. And the Lions are just going to do what they can to clinch a 7th seed spot. Hold on a second, guys. I'll be right back. No, I'm not done yet, but I will be right back. All right, guys. Thank you so much for holding up here. It really means a lot. Just give me one more second, guys. So, because I gotta get a sip of this drink here. My throat's really killing me today. Sorry about that, folks. Thank you. Hopefully this will help a little bit. All right. Whew. All righty. All right. So I just had to test out the audio a little bit, just to see if like you guys are good with hearing me and everything. I don't know why it's crackling like that. I apologize. I'm not sure why it's crackling like that. If you do hear some crackling noises or hear some staticky noises, I apologize. I'm not sure why that is. But just try to bear with me as best as you can, if you're able to. So let's go into this game right here. So, the Ravens-Steelers game. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this one, but let's just start off with the Steelers. That I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky's ever going to be a starter in this league ever again. After throwing 3 interceptions to the defense of the Ravens, throwing right to them, and one of them being to like a former teammate. I don't see him pursuing anymore as being, a starter quarterback to this league. I really don't see it. Just the way with the way they've been playing, the way they're, the way that he plays, he's not very consistent. With his passes, his touch of football is very awkward. It's not like a normal throwing motion of a quarterback like you see like Josh Allen make really big, really great throws to his wide receivers and consistent throws and stuff like that, or like the accuracy like Josh Allen, or like the accuracy like Kirk Cousins or stuff like that. Yeah, that's not Mitchell Trubisky. But not whatsoever. And he's just not the guy. He's definitely not the guy. And I defended Trubisky for a long time when he was with Chicago. I told a lot of people, listen, give him some time. He's young. He's going to improve. He'll do better. He's very talented, which he's still very talented. He can do some really good things and everything, but he can't be a starter in this league anymore. And he's really the reason why they lost this game. Not all because of him, but for the vast majority of it is because of him. He could not win this game for the Steelers to save himself. He just, they had every opportunity to do so. And like 3 of his turnovers all were deep into the red zone. So, you can't blame anybody else really but him, because, all those interceptions that he threw were just so bad interceptions that went right to the Ravens and helped them out with that game a lot. And so the Ravens defense is what really won this game for them. So Steelers are out for sure. I don't see them. They're definitely not going to make the playoffs whatsoever. But that also shows more, that opens up more room to why the Ravens are going to struggle a little bit. And we did see some of that, on Sunday. With Lamar not being healthy, we don't know exactly a timeline of when he's going to come back. And then you've got Huntley that has to go in there, who's a good backup for sure. He's definitely a good backup, but definitely a good backup. But if he's not going to be able to play either, then you got to go to your third string quarterback. And this offense that you have right now, and you really only have like your running backs, like J.K. Dobbins had a good game here, Gus Edwards. You go to your running backs, and then all of your receivers is basically Deshaun Jackson. Mark Andrews, who's kind of been absent here and there as of late. Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere offensively. You can win your games defense as much as you can, but Ravens defense has given up some games this year, which is exactly that's exactly what could happen here. So just keep that in mind there when the playoffs do come. Is that if they make the playoffs, they'll still make the playoffs, I think. But they're just not going to get anywhere far. And it's because of those reasons. It's because of offense. They don't have the playmakers like they used to. And, if you're going to rely on running the ball all the time, it may not work for every team. So that's why. That's why I say that. All right. Next, you got Joe Burrow and the Bengals getting his first career win over the Cleveland Browns, 23-10. I'm telling you, this Bengals team is hot right now. Nobody wants to play the Bengals. I personally believe that they are a better team. I think they're a better team than the Ravens right now. I really do. Given the fact that, you got Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase, you got all the receivers, you got the running backs, you got, the offensive line that looks like they've been playing better as of late, which is something that's good to see if you're a Bengals fan. And then you got a defense that's also playing better. than you were a couple of weeks ago. You know, Bengals are good. They're playing hot. They're playing exactly what their Super Bowl indicated last year. They're still a very good team. They're still fighting. They're going to do whatever they can. And it's because of this man right here, Joe Burrow. He knows exactly what he's got to do to win a game. And that's what he does. The Browns, on the other hand, the Browns are done. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. There's some games they could still win, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So I think it's too little, too late for them. Now, on the other hand, I thought Deshaun Watson had a better game. I thought it was a better game for him for sure. I think he clicked more with his offense. I thought he did a better job and had a better touch with the ball and everything, but it still made some mistakes. And it's going to take a little bit for him to really get in the rhythm of things with the Browns. So by like next year, they'll probably start to be like, talking about them being in the playoffs, maybe a Super Bowl run, maybe if things work out. But there's still a lot of things to talk about with the Browns. There's still a lot of things to clean up there, especially with the Deshaun Watson and that kind of outlook there. But yeah, Joe Burrow got his very first career win. That's a nice thing for him. Finally beat the Browns. Something to be proud of. Beat a very good quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Did it in dominating fashion pretty much. And he's got everything that's coming, that he really needs right now. So, good for him. I think he's doing well. I think they're poised for another Super Bowl run. All right, the Bills and the Jets. So the Bills, they're still going to be my Super Bowl pick and Super Bowl favorite. For sure. But this was a tough game for them. I'm not saying they did not play a good game. I think the Bills played a pretty decent game. I think they played a very, very similar game of what they played the last time against the Jets. But I think now with what you watched on Sunday, what we watched on Sunday, was exactly the reasons and things that we really learned about this Jets defense. We learned that this Jets defense is very, very, very young and very, very talented. We know that already, and we probably knew that already going back to like week 5. Okay, going back to like week 5, maybe we really saw a lot of really good things on that Jets defense. But they're solid, though. They're for real. They played Josh Allen. They covered Josh Allen. They played him up to a T. They did everything they could do to contain him. He did not have the most impressive stat line known to mankind in this game. No question about it. He got some yardage on the ground, for sure. But he did have some moments where he struggled to pass the ball. And given the fact that this game was in Buffalo, the game was getting snowy, it was getting a little windy up there. Weather conditions were definitely not favoring either team. But given the credit with that, though, that defense, it just shows you how good this defense really is for the Bills. Or for the Jets. The Jets defense is good. They played Josh Allen up to a T. They did everything they could do. Offensively is where they kind of struggled a little bit. Mike White, I thought Mike White had a pretty decent game. I really didn't think Mike White played all that bad. I don't think he played a great game. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a great football player in this game. But at the same time, I don't think he really played that bad either. I think what he showed in this game was mostly grit and toughness. I think he's very, very physically tough. I think he wanted to stay in the game, and he got hurt in this game like twice. Twice he got hurt in this game. And he continued to play up until his second injury. With his, I think it was like a rib injury or something like that. I think they finally ended up saying so. He might be questionable for this week. But I can tell you the differences between him and when Zach Wilson was playing. You could tell that Mike White plays with passion, though. And what I did like seeing from Mike White that I didn't see from Zach Wilson yet is how he throws the ball with touch and the accuracy. I think the accuracy, the mechanics are way better in Mike White than it is with Zach Wilson. And I think his maturity is definitely there for sure, which is why they're continuing to roll with him. And I think a lot of people like him. I think people like Mike White. I think people respect him. I think he plays better. I think the offense moves better when he's in the game. So, I thought he had a decent game there. I don't think he played bad at all. Then he got knocked out of the game, and Joe Flacco came in, and that Bills defense did everything they could to get the best of Joe Flacco. And even without Von Miller, guys, the Bills defense is still very good even without Von Miller. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. So it didn't even matter if Von Miller was out there. Now, as far as playoffs go, yes, the Bills will still make the playoffs. I still believe they're going to make the Super Bowl. Very likely. They're still my Super Bowl pick. I think they're very likely they're going to get there. There are some things I do worry about them. I think a lot of it is mostly because of offense. I think, there's a lot of things offensively that they do really, really well in. But there's also things that they also really concern me with. They've been doing a better job with making run calls this year. In my opinion, I think they've been doing a better job with that. But at the same time, though, too, they also just make a lot of boneheaded decisions. I think Josh Allen makes some boneheaded decisions, not smart ideas with the ball. And Sean McDermott gets way too needy. He gets way too greedy down there in the red zone. He wants to go for touchdown. I get it. But you can't always go touchdown. You got to be realistic. And you got to try to get the points up when you can. If that means to take the field goal, you got to take a field goal. So that's really what concerns me most about the Bills, is those aspects, is mostly play calling and coaching decisions. Now the Jets could still make the playoffs as the 7th seed, but it's going to be very challenging for them. And I think a lot of it is going to be mostly because of offense. I think we all already know that. Defensively, I think they can compete with anybody defensively. I think if their defense is playing real hot and can, really contain any team, which I think they could compete with any team pretty much, they might have some success. But if their offense does not get going either, though, and the defense is out there for too long, they may not go too far. But I think both teams are still playoff contentions for sure. I think they still both can make the playoffs. Both probably could make a deep run here. They really push themselves to do it. But ultimately, it's the way they play is what's really going to come down to, the way they play. All right. I'm going to take another sip of my drink. So should the Cowboys be worried about excuse me. Should they be worried almost blowing a lead, almost blowing a game against the Texans? Yeah, a little bit. I think the Cowboys should be concerned a little bit. Mostly because how do you almost lose to the Texans like that is beyond me. I don't understand how you almost lose to the Texans. And if you're a defensive team that's supposed to be like getting on this team all over the place, you put 54 points against the Colts last week. How do you not put up any more points against that? So a little concerning there. I think it's a little concerning that you can barely beat a 1-10-1 team. I think to me that's very, very concerning. But does this mean like the Cowboys are going to lose, Are they going to, start to go downhill after this? Well, maybe, maybe not. I think defensively, I think they've been kind of up and down as of late. But it doesn't mean that I think they're going to, totally crash. I don't think they're going to totally crash and burn. But at the same time, they definitely need to really consider some things and making some big changes and see what they can do. But yeah, I mean, I think as a Cowboys fan, as someone that's like a football fanatic like me, it's something I would concern about, no question about it. But it's not anything that's like too crazy though. Like, again, I think there's still going to be a playoff team. I think they're still gonna rise to the occasion here and there. I think they're still gonna you know try to beat any team that they possibly can. Maybe even get to maybe win a playoff game or two if they're lucky. I think they could probably win at least two playoff games, and we'll just see how it goes. Just see how it goes. But I think this Texans game was, I think it was kind of like a wake up thing for the Cowboys and just show them that they can't sleep like that, like they did last week. And if they could do that, kind of start playing their game, they start pushing themselves and know that, like, hey, we almost lost this game. We got lucky. Now we got to get back in it and really start showing it to these other teams. Might not have to worry about it too much, but it's a little bit of a worry. Not, but at the same time, not so much because I think they'll still be okay. I think they'll still be good, but just something to really think about. Another one I want to talk about, the Giants Eagles. Yeah, I'm very concerned about this game for sure. Very concerned about the Giants. They're 7-5-1. I mean, yes, this was the kind of Giants that I was expecting for them to really be this year. I didn't think they were going to be this good, but now it's time to panic because now their playoff chances are definitely slipping away. And with some of these last losses that they've had, like with Detroit, with the Cowboys, the Seahawks, tying against the Commanders, now you're losing to the Eagles. The way that you did, that's very concerning. It's very concerning. And I don't know if I really, I don't know if I really want to see the Giants get into the playoffs to get embarrassed because they absolutely got embarrassed by the Eagles. They've gotten embarrassed the last couple of weeks. They got embarrassed against the Lions and they got embarrassed against the Eagles. Those are like the two teams that they got embarrassed by. And it just shows you that the Giants have a lot more problems than what they were playing with previously. I think previously everybody was healthy, and were playing, exactly to what Wink Martindale was doing defensively and what Brian Dable, does continuously with playing as with Daniel Jones and containing him to be a decent quarterback. But still good coaching staff. I don't question the coaching staff whatsoever. But I do question a lot more about the health of the players and how they play and how they prepare themselves. I think is mostly my concern there, and it's something that will probably slip away for the Giants and probably could slip away a playoff chance for them. All right, next game we got the Titans and Jags game. Are the Titans in trouble? And what kind of team are the Jags? Yes, I believe that the Titans are in trouble. They might still make the playoffs. I still think they can probably still, be that division leader in the AFC South. But it's also a concern, though, too. More so to the fact of where, they're not really playing up to the level where they should be playing as of late, which is something that we kind of expected the Titans to be this year. Playing very raw defense, raw offense, and just not really getting anywhere. Even without like A.J. Brown. And kind of like, after Ryan Tannehill's kind of down year last year with throwing the football, was more of like was more of what we expected from the Titans this year. So I think they're a little bit in trouble. I don't think they're going to make it very well, very far in the playoffs. I think they'll probably win. They probably will just be one and done, in my opinion. Whoever they play, if they play the Bengals again, they're definitely not going to beat the Bengals. If the Bengals, play that game, and with the Ravens too, if the Ravens end up losing that one, losing the division title, and they drop into a wild card spot, I don't think the Titans can beat the Ravens either. A lot of a lot of things going on right now. I think right now with the way the Titans are playing are exactly what we expected them to be this year. And then the Jacksonville Jags, the kind of team that they are, really, they're just very inconsistent. Really, what it comes down to, they're a team that's like an unknown. You never know what kind of team you're going to play with Jacksonville. You don't know if they're going to play a good game that day, or if they're going to play a bad game. You just never know. They're very, very wildly inconsistent. That seems like nobody seems to really understand. But I like the future for Jacksonville. I think they got a bright future ahead of them, though. But as far as the Titans go, I think they're in trouble. Might be in danger of losing a playoff spot. I don't think so personally. But never know. You just never, ever know. That's why I'm not too keen, not too good, not like being so I'm trying to be optimistic about it. With that. All right, the Chiefs and the Broncos. Broncos are done. They're eliminated. And the Chiefs held on in Mile High. Now, the Chiefs were up 27-0 at one point. And for them to only end up winning the game by 6 points is absolutely absurd. How do you lead 27-0 and then you almost lose the game? How do you do that? And not only allow it to happen, how do you let it happen to the Denver Broncos? Like, seriously, the Broncos have struggled to score more than 16 points this year. They've averaged 14 points a game this year. That's terrible. That's the league's worst in terms of scoring. They couldn't even muster barely even 16 points. They don't score more than 16 points a lot of games. And they somehow found a way to score this season's best of 28. How did that happen? This is exactly the kind of offense that we expected to see this year for the Broncos. Why haven't we seen that this year? So that just kind of shows you how bad the Chiefs' defense really is. Like, they really are bad. Their defense is bad. And if they couldn't get a pass rush going on this Broncos offense, just imagine what they got to do when they play teams like the Bills, when they got to play teams like the Bengals in the playoffs, and whoever else they might end up playing. I don't get it. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about that, Chiefs? That's something you got to get figured out. They'll win offensively. They'll get things done offensively. But defensively, man, you can't stop Russell Wilson and the Broncos. You're in trouble. You're in a lot of trouble there. So I would be concerned about that if I was a Chiefs fan. Or if I was a Chiefs player or a coach. I would be concerned about that. And try to figure out how do you lead 27-0 and then you end up winning the game by 6. Not only win the game by 6, which is already less than what your spread is according to Vegas, but you let it happen to the Broncos, the league's worst offense in the league. They got to get that one figured out. All right, as playoff spots are becoming too slim, are the Seahawks in trouble? And how good are the Panthers with Sam Darnold? So, yes, the Seahawks are in trouble. And it's not because of Geno Smith. We talked about it already. It's not because of Geno Smith. I don't want to blame him at all. It's not because of him. It's not because of his receivers. It's not because of Pete Carroll. It's not because of offensive coordinator or play calling, whatever. It's not because of that. It's only because of one thing, and it's defense. Their defense stinks bad. And where do they stink specifically? In the run. They cannot stop the run to save their lives. And how good are the Panthers with running the ball? They're pretty darn good. Not going to lie. They're not They're not bad running the ball whatsoever. It's not a Christian McCaffrey whatsoever. But Deontay Foreman and with a Chubber Hubbard, definitely not bad at all. I think you get a lot of split time with both running backs. But the Seahawks are in trouble. They might be in danger of missing the playoffs for the second year in a row, which is something that Pete Carroll and his crew definitely does not want. So they got to adjust. They got to make this defense better and stronger. But I don't think it's going to happen, though. And it's not a fault, again, to the offense whatsoever. The offense is not the problem. It's the defense that's the problem. They got to get it fixed. They have not got it fixed in years. It's time to get it fixed. Get it fixed in the offseason. Because you can't win games like that. You can't win games by shootouts every week. Now, how does this really tell about the Panthers and how good they are with Sam Darnold? Well, I got to say, I was not expecting them to play as well with Sam Darnold this year. I didn't even think we were going to see Sam Darnold play this year. But I have to say, since he's been playing in there, they have not been that bad. I think anybody that's not named Baker Mayfield, I think the Panthers have been fine. A lot of times, so why they don't win these games is because of play calling. I think play calling has been horrendous this year. Although I think Steve Wilkes has been doing a much better job with play call. I think he's doing a better job playing, the offensive playbook. I think he's doing better with that. But at the same time, I think they're a dangerous team. They're a dark horse team. I think this is a team that has a bright future to them. I really do. I think they have a bright future. And I think defensively they're very underrated. I think they can kind of sneak into like maybe a top 15, maybe cusp of top 20, maybe somewhere around there, right at the cusp of the 20 mark, somewhere around there. I think they're still good. I think the Panthers are a good team. I don't think they're that bad. They did not start well at all because of Matt Rule and because of their playbook and Baker Mayfield, who was not playing very well at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I mean, those things didn't really work out. Then you put in P.J. Walker. They looked pretty explosive offensively. I don't think P.J. Walker's good at all, but he seemed to have fit into the system better. And then Sam Darnold came in. Has been coming in the last couple of games. And, he looks pretty similar to what we've seen in P.J. Walker. I mean, there were a couple of calls I kind of thought they could have done a little bit differently. I think with them at the goal line there, I mean, I didn't think they had to go for it on 4th and goal. I think they could have just kicked the field goal there and let that happen. I mean, I understand why they wanted to go for it because they're already right there. They wanted to push it in. But I would have probably ran that ball in. He had like 3 other downs to do it. And they didn't do it. They passed the ball. And they just didn't run it in. If they would have ran that ball in, they would have scored the touchdown. But they weren't willing to do that. So if they weren't willing to run the ball there on the first 3 downs, then they should have just kicked the field goal. That's my only thing. That's my only thing I have to say about that. But other than that, I think the Panthers are good. Might be able to squeeze in a playoff spot here maybe. But even better, they might even try to take the division away from Tom Brady. Think about that for a second. Sam Darnold or P.J. Walker and the Carolina Panthers taking away a division title from Tom Brady. That would be absolutely insane. All right. Them 49ers are pretty good. Yes, they are. They took it to Tom Brady. They took it to Tom Brady on Sunday, man. 35-7. The Niners played a near-perfect game. Offensively, defensively, they did all the right things. And like I was telling you before with Brock Purdy, how he should be the starting quarterback for this team moving forward, I still stand by that. After like maybe an hour of talking, I still stand by that. I still think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He has a lot of tendencies to be similar like Jimmy Garoppolo with like his mannerisms, the way he plays the game a little bit, and the way he kind of throws the ball is very similar to Jimmy G. But I also think he throws the ball more with touch. I think he's a lot quicker with getting the ball away, and I think he's willing to take taking more risks with the ball than Jimmy G is. Jimmy G is very conservative, and I also believe that he can get out of the pocket a lot quicker than Jimmy Garoppolo. So, and with Trey Lance, we saw Trey Lance play some games. He hasn't had a lot of experience, which technically really isn't all his fault. But the guy's not a very good passer, Trey Lance. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you 49ers fans, but I don't like Trey Lance. I really don't like... not that I don't like him as a person, not that I don't like him as a player, but I don't think he's a good passer whatsoever. I think his mechanics, his footing, and the way he throws the ball is just very, very, very raw. And when he sits there in the pocket, it's very evident that he does not have the accuracy, the touch of playing the football where he wants to when he's a pocket guy. He's just not a very good passer. Now, would he be a good backup? Would he be a good quarterback to have like a Taysom Hill where you could utilize him as like a wildcat formation? Yeah, I think so. I think you can use Trey Lance for that because he is a pretty big guy. He's fast. He's mobile. I think you can use him in that aspect. But he's not a starting quarterback, though, for this team. Maybe he'll have some success elsewhere. But I think if the Niners do plan on keeping Trey Lance next year, I would just consider using him maybe as like a wildcat formation. And you could get him to like, get some plays in here and there as like a running quarterback as what I would probably use him for. But definitely not use him as like a passer. Use him as like a utility player like you use with Taysom Hill for the Saints. Now let's talk about the Bucs. I'll talk about them a little bit. I am very worried about the Bucs. I've been worried about the Bucs for weeks. But I'm definitely worried about them now. They could not beat the 49ers on a third-string quarterback, which really is not that surprising. But I'm concerned about the Bucs because of the issues that they're having. Offense. They can't get anything started offensively. They cannot run the ball whatsoever, either with White or Fournette. They can't run the ball at all. They historically have the worst run game in franchise history. They cannot pass the ball. Mike Evans cannot catch a ball to save his life. They can't really do anything like that. Tom Brady does miss some throws and can be inaccurate at times. And the offensive line is not protecting either. So all those problems that the Bucs are having is all the problems that they've been having the whole entire season. It's all because of offense. They just cannot get anything started. They can't get anything started on drives. When they get a drive going, it looks like it's going in the positive direction. It ends up turning negative. Why? Because they're not consistent. Not just because they're not consistent, but they also do not play to their hype either. And they don't do that. Byron Leftwich, also very overrated offensive coordinator for this team. I think he needs to go. And I think they need to let Tom Brady make the plays. Let him make the calls, in my honest opinion. Because Byron Leftwich does not know how to call a good offensive game. And Todd Bowles, nice guy. I like him as a defensive coordinator, but the dude cannot be a head coach. So I would not be surprised if he ends up getting fired by the end of this year, or if not next year. Because the dude cannot head coach. He was a head coach with the Jets, and it did not work out well at all. And it's not going to end well here with Tampa Bay. He's just not a very good head coach. His defense will play you well. I think he can coach up a good defense, but there's no way he should be a head coach, though. I'm sorry. All right, and then now we got to talk about the Chargers and the Dolphins. So welcome back, Mike Williams. See what happens when you have your best receiver in the game? See what happens when you have a fully recharged and revamp the team, Chargers? Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you have Mike Williams. You have your best receiver on your team. You give Justin Herbert a lot of time to throw the ball like you did on Sunday Night Football. You're going to win games. Of course you are going to win games. Maybe not all the time, but a lot of times, and it'll keep you in games. But this was a very, very, very good showing of the Chargers that I expected the Chargers to be this year. I expected there would have been a lot more touch offensively, but the defense, though, man, why didn't this defense play the entire year the way they played on Sunday night? Why? Pass rush, coverage, secondary, everything was just so darn good about this game for the Chargers. Defensively, they were getting all over it. And that's exactly the kind of game plan that you got to play when you're going up against a fast pass-first team like the Miami Dolphins. And they couldn't get anywhere on the ground going, which is something that we expected. They weren't going to run the ball a whole lot. I didn't think that was going to be, anything, that was going to happen anyway. So, that worked out, in their favor because they probably would have given up a lot of yardage there. But they played good coverage. Like, guys, if you watch this game, go watch this game again. If you have not done so already, watch the highlights for this game. Because I'm telling you, the Chargers defense and the way they covered this game and the way they did not allow Tua to make his big moments with Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and everything, watch this game again. Like, this game was unbelievable for the Chargers. Everything went exactly their way. Everything went the way that they wanted it to go. They didn't allow Tua to make big plays. They didn't allow Tyreek to explode or run all over them. That's exactly what this team should have been like the entire year. But here's where some of my concerns do come in about the Dolphins, though. About that. So, not so much offensively, but they're just similar to the Bills. They need to get a run game going. They have Jeff Wilson. They have Raheem Mostert. They've got two good backs. They can start running the ball now. They got to take advantage of running the ball. Because if you have good coverage, if you're playing a good team that plays good man coverage like the Chargers do, they played very good man coverage, and you're playing a team that has very good secondary that can cover your top receivers of like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Then you gotta change up your game plan and you gotta run the ball more. You gotta trust your gut on running the ball. And you gotta split time with Raheem Mostert and you gotta split some time with Jeff Wilson. Like, you gotta split some time with those two guys. And see what you can do there, because you're going up against a defense that doesn't do well against the run at all. And this is your opportunity to win a game here. Your season's on the line. You're trying to hold on to a playoff spot here. You don't want the Chargers to get into the playoffs. You can get this if you run the ball. And they didn't do that. And then defensively also kind of concerned me too. They don't play they don't quite play the secondary that they used to when Brian Flores was there. I feel like if Brian Flores was here, this game wouldn't have been 23-17. This game probably would have been won by the Dolphins like 17-10. That's probably exactly what it would have been. Maybe 17-13 or something like that. But there's no way that the Dolphins would have scored 23 points, or the Chargers would have scored 23 points on the Dolphins if Brian Flores was the coach here. Because this defense here for the Dolphins is solid. They have solid players and playmakers defensively as well. But they play very soft. They've been playing very soft as of late. They don't play quite the same coverage that they did last year. They don't really get a good pass rush in, and if you're not getting a good pass rush in or putting any kind of pressure on that offensive line to the quarterback, that's also kind of troublesome there too. But two teams that I think is going to probably be playoff contention for sure. I think the Chargers might slip in. I think they have a very good chance here. We'll see what's coming up within the next couple of weeks. They do have to win some games, but they also got to prove that they also got to pray that and hope that the Patriots and the Jets start kind of losing out some games too, if they want to make that 7th seed spot. And then finally, Kyler Murray is out for the rest of the year. Does not hurt the Cardinals either way because they're done. Their season's done anyway. They're toast. They've been bad all year. But this also hurts, it hurts Kyler Murray, though, that he's not playing the rest of the year. But at the same time, though, he got paid. He got that big payday here. There's no reason for him to really play anymore because his team's not very good. So, not much to really say about that. But the Cardinals, the Patriots did beat the Cardinals. That's why the Patriots ended up sneaking into that spot. I thought the Patriots, I think their defense is still very good. I think their defense is still good. But offensively, man, if their defense had not have scored or helped them score, keep them into the game, Patriots probably would have ended up losing this game. So Patriots offense is a bit of a concern for me. Little bit of a concern. And with all that being said, guys, that's it for my Week 14 recap reaction video. I hope all of you guys enjoyed it. Just do me a quick favor before we log off here. Please be sure to drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well, guys. I need all of your help as much as I can. I really want to make sure that I keep building up this YouTube channel. I want to make sure that you guys are getting the best content that you guys deserve and you want to talk about some football. And if you guys ever have any questions, just don't be afraid to leave a comment down below. And I definitely will help you out the best way possible. And I want to be able to do that for you guys as best as possible. So please do all those things and you'll all be good. And with that being said, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. We will be going live. We're not going to be going live tomorrow. We're probably not going to be going live tomorrow, but we will be going live right before Thursday Night Football at 7:30. So that will be December 15th on a Thursday at 7:30 p.m. We're going to try that and see how that works out, like doing it right before Thursday Night Football. I'll give you guys my picks and my best bets for the week and everything like that, and all will be good. But everybody, this is JP Football Fanatics. We're saying peace out, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great